G'day everyone, it's Curtis here and welcome to an On The Backwheel video. Today I'm doing my 4,000 kilometer review for my Suzuki V-Strom 800 DE. Now I've had the bike for a while now and I've done a big mix of riding. I've done a couple of really nice adventure rides on it, and I also use this to ride to and from work every day, so this is my commuter. And spoiler alert, I think this is a very good bike. It's not perfect though. So as this is a new model, let's start with reliability. I've had no major problems with the bike and it hasn't given me any reason to doubt it either. And the build quality is really good too, the finish. If I give this a wash, it still looks brand new, and I've done some rides that made my KLR look pretty secondhand. It's not perfect though, and it's not so much reliability, but design issues. We'll start with the rear number plate. I don't know why manufacturers persist with these massive rear number plates. When you ride a bit faster off-road or you do some little jumps and stuff, the rear tyre eats your number plate. What actually happened was it snapped my rear number plate, and I happened to stop to change my GoPro battery, I believe it was, and it was just hanging on. So I put it in my backpack so I was able to save it, which saved me a bit of money because you've got to buy a new one. Stupid design, do not like it. I am looking at modifying it. I believe Hessler does a kind of tail tidy. It's not perfect, but it looks a lot better. And I'll see what other people are doing. Otherwise, I might have to design my own. Also, on the exhaust here, we've got a plastic cover and it pops off. So it takes a little bit of work, but it has happened to me off-road a couple of times. And then it's got caught on the exhaust and it's melted it a bit. Plastic and exhaust just don't mix, people. I don't know why they persist with it. I've mentioned this before, but the stock handguards, they're just no good. Look, I'm not even doing anything, just barely touching it and they flop around. They're just wind deflectors, guys. They're absolutely terrible. And I have snapped my lever as a result of a small off where this has popped out and come up and just snapped the end off. I am looking at replacing them. Something that isn't so much a design flaw is the chain. I've had to adjust it a fair few times. Much more than I would have thought on a new motorcycle, and I have been looking after it. So I've only got 4,000 Ks on it, but it's got a fair bit of slack, so before my next ride I'm going to have to adjust it again. Maybe it will get to a point and stay there and I won't have to adjust it, but I don't have high hopes, but I will keep an eye on that. In terms of major reliability problems, I have had none, and the bike just fires up every time you want it to. Let's talk about the engine. It's an absolute peach. I love it. It's just grunt city, but it's smooth and somehow character filled as well. They've done a great job with it. The transmission is absolutely fantastic. The quick shifter is great, but I have managed to trip it up a few times. If I'm being lazy and just rest my foot on it or something coming up to a traffic light, the down blipper will run on a little bit every now and again. Not very often, but it has done it, so something to be wary of, but most of the time it is pretty well perfect. So I love the engine, and the fueling, spot on. They've done a great job. The engine modes, I've tried very briefly the B and C modes. They're a waste of time. I wouldn't bother, just leave it in the A mode. I mean, it's only got 80 horsepower and it's quite a big, heavy bike, and it keeps it really punchy and fun. It's got enough power so you can get ahead of the traffic. Still blast by people on the highway, and then off-road, 80 horsepower is too much, but a lot of fun. The suspension, the boingers, they're pretty good for a stock bike, I will say that. I would say it is better than a stock Tenere suspension and much better than my KLR suspension, probably even better than the KLR was set up. It does bottom out a bit too easy for me. I think it needs a bit more bottoming resistance. I don't know whether it can be fixed with valving or need heavier springs. We will see. I might end up taking it to a suspension shop. What I've done is put the preload in a fair bit. It makes it better off-road, and you're able to push a bit harder. It sits higher on a stroke, but then you're losing a bit of plushness on the road. So it's a bit of a compromise. I'll fiddle with the clickers a bit more. I've put them in a little bit, both the rebound and compression, and it's pretty good. On the rear, I've cranked it in a fair bit as well. And it's good, it's good. But the thing is, this is a 230 kilo bike. When you're off-road, it's just a lot of weight and a lot to deal with. So it's good to a point. Once you start to push it through some serious stuff or just ride a bit faster, it does lose it a bit. It gets a bit wishy-washy and wallowy. You know, it's just a big bike with a lot going on. So I might look at getting it professionally looked at. We'll see how we go. Going to do a little bit more fiddling with the clickers first. Fuel economy. So I haven't reset the trip meter after my last service, which was 2,000 kilometers ago, a bit more than that, 2,200. And it's sitting at 4.7 litres per 100 kilometres, which is fantastic. That's included a couple of adventure rides, some off-road riding, and then a lot of commuting to and from work. So some easier riding, but still, that's very good. And my latest fuel tank, with just riding to and from work, with the odd blast here and there to get ahead of the traffic and doing wheelies and being silly every now and again, it's at 4.2 litres per 100. So very economical bike. Realistically, you're going to get 400 out of a tank. It's a 20 litre tank, I believe, or a 21 litre, so maybe a little bit more if you're stretching it. I fill up at about 350, 360, and still got a couple of litres left, a few litres left. So the tank range, well, they pushed it over. So the tank range is quite good. More than enough for adventure bike riding. I find as long as you get about 300, that's about right for getting between stops. Then if you've got a lot of off-road riding, you get stuck for a period of time, you still got plenty of the spare to get you to the nearest town. So parts have been a bit slow to come out for the V-Strom, but I have managed to do a few mods. The most noticeable is the Hepco and Becker crash bars. I just put them on. They seem fantastic. I haven't crashed with them yet, but the build quality seems fantastic and they're quite light and they suit the bike. So I've chucked them on. Looking at getting a bash plate, I'm probably going to get the SRC bash plate, just waiting on availability. A lot of things. There's not much availability at the moment, but it's happening. The biggest thing I've done to the bike though is the tyres. Why they put Dunlop mixed tours on these stock, I will never know. I've gone the complete opposite end of the spectrum. They were basically road tyres that you'd put on basic gravel roads. Even then the front was sketchy as. I put the Pirelli Rally Scorpions on, the MST front, which is basically a dirt race tyre. It is fantastic. It has transformed the bike. On the rear, I've got the adventure style Pirelli Rally Race, which is more of a 50-50 adventure tyre, probably 60-40, and it is good, not great. More on that in a separate video, but they have transformed the bike. These tyres, massive difference, and I can tackle pretty much everything off-road, bar the really gnarly stuff where you want to take light bikes. I can tackle it off-road and really push in corners, and the suspension gives that ability as well. Really gives you the ability to be confident when riding off-road. So I definitely recommend getting rid of the stock tyres. They make a huge difference on the bike, even if you're going for something that's more of a 50-50 tyre than what's on, it'll transform the bike. I've installed a Radiator Guard and Engine Guard from Rad Guard. Really impressed with the build quality on both of these. The Radiator Guard in particular is good to have because when you're riding with big adventure bikes and stuff, they throw rocks. Radiators are expensive, people. You don't want to pay to replace them. And the Engine Guard is just good to have. It stops the big rocks from getting in. It is a little bit exposed at the front here. There you got the oil cooler there, and your water pump just stops rocks and stuff like that getting in from the front. I've changed the battery to an SSB Power Sports lithium battery. The reason I've done that is to save a bit of weight. It's basically offset of my crash bars, which is fantastic, but also it enabled me to do a battery box delete. For most people, you probably don't need to bother, but if you're doing a bit more off-roading like I do, and you're in a dusty environment, I mean, Brisbane and everywhere around here is just so dry at the moment, you know, you want to keep a clean air filter. It enables you to get to your pre-filter just that bit easier, so you don't have to remove your battery, just pull it out of the way, get to your pre-filter, then you can clean it much quicker. So I recommend doing that. Very easy and cheap thing to do. I mean, the battery box delete is free. You just need some styrofoam to pack it out. And I've had no issues. I know people were worried. They'd be like, oh mate, it's going to jump around as a battery. I'm like, it doesn't move at all. There's no issues at all. Now, this has been probably my favorite mod. The Tall OEM 800 DE seat. I can't recommend it enough. I think if you're buying one, just buy one of these straight away and put it on. Don't waste your time with the other seat unless you are shorter. For me, I can still touch really easy. We'll jump around. This is on a big slope, by the way. It doesn't look it on camera, but it's quite a big slope. Look at that. Knees still bent. and I'm touching very comfortably with that 1 foot. I can touch with 2. Oh man, actually pretty close to flat with 2. And that's with the preload jacked in a little bit, which raises the bike up a tiny bit more. So nearly touch flat with 2 feet. Very easy with a bent leg with 1. Oh, try to get off the bike on this hill. Now my phone's in my pocket. Oh. That is the best mod I've done, along with the tyres. The tyres are a necessity and not so much a mod, just something you do to suit the style of riding you do. This is the best mod. It's such a comfortable seat. It's a little bit higher. I'm not as cramped on the bike. The seat to peg ratio for me is much better. I find when I'm standing up riding off-road, it's not so far to go, and especially sitting down, you just feel like you can pop up and pop down much easier. And you're not so much slung in the bike. I know a lot of people really like that, and you still are. But for me, it was a bit too scalloped out the other seat. I will say this, that stock seat is insanely comfortable, insanely comfortable. This keeps the same shape, it's just a little bit higher. So I 100% recommend that. I was looking at getting a custom seat to begin with, like a rally seat that's kind of flat the whole way. I don't think I will anymore. This is pretty bloody good and cheap. It's cheap. It was like $212 Australian. Very reasonable. There's a couple more things I've done. I removed the rear foot pegs. I don't need them. I never got a pillion. And in order to do that, you have to move where your rear shock reservoir is, your remote preload reservoir. I have zip tied it onto the frame. Bit of a dodgy option at the moment. I will probably look at designing or 3D printing something that uses the bolts there, and then I can bolt onto it. But at the moment, that's fine. Do I recommend doing that? That's up to you. I haven't had any issues with it, and it's just a temporary solution. Look, I haven't even cut the bloody zip ties so they look neat and tidy. And I've also removed the big steel cover that goes here on the exhaust. I was fiddling around with the exhaust, seeing what exhaust I can get to fit, if I could just get some eBay exhaust to fit that outlet for the time being, till availability comes for other brands. And it had this big chunky metal thing on it. I thought, why is it there? It doesn't look good. It doesn't need to be there. It weighs like, well, it had to be near a kilo, half a kilo, so I just put it in my parts drawer and left it there. I'm going to be looking at doing more. Going to change the mirrors. I've got some spare mirrors I'm probably going to chuck on. My foldable ones I had from my KLR. I'll probably chuck them on. They're just cheap eBay ones, but they were very good. These ones are great on the road, but off-road, as soon as you knock them, they just unwind and come undone. And then they're really hard to refit and get them right. I've kind of got it now. I've had to do it a few times and kind of got it, but man, you got to have a degree in brain surgery to try and figure it out. They're just a weird design, not made to be adjusted all the time. People recommend double take. I'm probably not going to get them because they're insanely expensive. They're overpriced, I think. Even if they are amazing, they're like extremely expensive in Australia. Look at getting handguards. Nothing really available yet in things that look good. I've been annoying Barkbuster, but they don't have anything yet. So I know a couple people on the channel have modified theirs to fit. So you can do it. They can tell you how to do it. I read it and I was like, oh, that's a bit too involved. I might just wait. But you can do it. I'm looking forward to getting a bash plate. The stock one's actually pretty good. I haven't had any issues, but you just want that bit more protection if you're going over rocks and stuff like that. A fair few people have asked me, how is the heat coming from the motor? I haven't really found it to be an issue, and I've been looking out for it after people kept asking me about it. There's a little bit of heat there, but I wouldn't say it's bad or worse than any other motorcycle, to be honest. It's fine. It's much hotter here than probably Europe, I can tell you that for sure. And it hasn't been an issue to me. Maybe if you're in a cold environment, you might notice it more, but yeah, it's not bad at all, and certainly not a reason to not buy the motorcycle, that's for sure. A couple of other things are, the foot pegs are very good. You take out the rubber mounts, and actually really good foot pegs. I'm probably just gonna leave them as is. They are fine. Ideally a little bit bigger would be good, but they're pretty spot on, to be honest, for the kind of bike it is when you're riding off-road. The dash, I really like the dash. It's simple and easy to use. Thank you for having an easy dash. And changing like modes is great. Like if you want to turn traction control off, it's just doing 2 clicks. and ABS is like 3 or 4 clicks and it's done. It's so simple to do. Kudos to you for that. Wind protection, it's okay. It's not amazing. If you're doing highway work, definitely get a bigger screen, whether it be the OEM Suzuki one. I haven't tried it yet, but it is bigger. I think the new Suzuki 800 base model is coming with the biggest screen stop. Well, I think it is coming with a bigger screen, so maybe you can chuck that one on. I'm probably just gonna leave this. I don't do a lot of really big highway work, so it doesn't bother me. But I did notice going down the highway, if I didn't have earplugs in, whew, it was pretty noisy. Definitely pretty noisy, and a bit of wind blast. Better than the KLR was, for sure. Definitely better than the KLR was, but could be improved. So that's something to be aware of. Get a bigger screen if you're doing, put my hand there, if you're doing a lot of highway work. Let's talk about the weight. It's 230 kilograms, and I've seen people say that it's comparable in feel to a Tenere 700 and Touareg 660. They are completely wrong. Do not listen to them anymore. This feels a fair bit heavier than them. It's very manageable and hides its weight well, but it is still 230 kilos. I've dropped this a few times off-road and you're straining, you're struggling. I know they're still 200 kilos filled up, but this is 230 kilos filled up. The weight is down low, but it is still a struggle to pick this bike up. And when you're in the slower sections, it feels every bit of those 230 kilos. It's just hard to hide that kind of weight, especially compared to something like the Touareg. That thing is incredibly nimble and light feeling for its weight. And it's 200 kilos, so there is a difference there. Don't get me wrong, they're all big heavy bikes, and they're not going to be a KTM 450, but this is that little bit heavier. Now comparing this to the KLR650, if you don't know, that was my last bike, and a lot of people are seeing this as the next logical step, and I think it is the perfect step up from the KLR650. It is a significantly better bike. The motor alone is worth the price of admission. That extra power, I mean, it's got at least double the power of the KLR. Not that horsepower is everything, but it's also got the torque to go with it. And the fueling, it is absolutely fantastic, the motor. The suspension's better. It's a similar weight, I would say, than the KLR Adventure. That's a similar weight. But it's just all round a much better motorcycle. The finish is better, the build quality is better, the components are higher quality, even just using the switches and everything, they are much higher quality. The dash is nicer. If you're looking at an upgrade from a KLR, I definitely recommend this. It's very similar, just better. If you have any questions, wishing to compare the two, put it down below and I'll get back to you. I might even do a dedicated video comparing them in the future. So that's about it for my 4,000 kilometer review on the Suzuki V-Strom 800 DE. If you have any questions, put them in the comments down below and I'll get back to you. I'll look at doing another review probably at about 10,000 kilometers, or when I'm finished doing my build. I've still got lots of stuff I want to do. As I said, exhaust, bash plate, fix up the rear end, a couple of little things here and there, get the suspension looked at possibly. But I'll talk about that when I get to it, maybe do a dedicated build video. All right, I'm gonna keep clocking up the miles on this bike. Got plenty more rides planned on it, including a couple of good ones coming up. And if you haven't, make sure you hit that subscribe button, check out my other content and keep it on the back wheel. Catches.